You're listening to the Traffic and Conversion Show. I'm your host, Michelle Fernandez, and you are in for such a treat today because joining me is Megan Sumrell. She is a former corporate techie turned entrepreneur, and as a business owner, mom, and wife, she knows exactly how hard it is to juggle all the things, right? While still maintaining your own sense of self and purpose. When her daughter was born in 2010, life as she knew it completely changed. After struggling to manage work, motherhood, family, all the things, Megan set out on a new way to manage her time and organize her calendar. She took her 20 plus year career in systems and processes and applied it to one of her favorite things, time management. She's totally my girl. We're always on the same page with the time management. And as a time management and productivity coach for women seeking work-life harmony, Megan teaches specific strategies to help women get on top of their time, calendar, and goals with getting rid of stress, overwhelm, and exhaustion. Did I tell you you are in for a treat for today? Her planning approach is the only female planning system that works from the bottom up. It acknowledges that women have a lot on their plates and gives pragmatic, real world strategies to help women manage all the things. Her courses and planner teach exactly how to plan your weeks and days to maximize productivity and efficiency while still allowing for flexibility and downtime. She is the creator of the Top Program and Top Planner, a program and planner that teaches her proprietary system and processes regarding time management, organization, and productivity for female entrepreneurs. Today, my friend, is all about how to create your to don't list. So you're going to want to stay tuned. Hey there, welcome back to the show. So glad to have you here with me today. And you all are in for a treat because today I am joined by my friend, productivity and time management expert, Megan Sumrell. Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, and this is your second time on the show, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to have you back. Your first episode was episode 44, so if you haven't,
That's a long time ago.
it is. It's like way back ago, which you probably have like updated everything. But if you want to go back and listen to that, she dropped a lot of golden nuggets back then. So go back and check out episode 44. And I am glad to have you here because we're heading into a new year, right? And we're talking about annual planning and just heck, every week when we're planning, right? We're always planning out our things to do. We have things to do this, things to do that, but we never think about things to don't do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So can we just talk, first of all, let's start off about your journey. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Gosh, I'm going to try and make it super duper short. So, my background is actually, I spent over 20 years in the IT space, total tech nerd. My job was called a software quality architect, which is just another way of saying I'm just a big fat nerd, and I own it. I love it. I was a math major. I love all things numbers, tech, all of that. And the career that I had really was all around going into large scale software organizations and, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, creating harmony out of chaos. So I worked with, startup organizations and very large software companies you would know the names of, to really go in and optimize how they were getting their end product out the door to get it done better, faster, cheaper. Which, when we translate that to our own lives, isn't that what we all want to do, right? We want to get stuff done in the most efficient way, the most cost-effective way, in a way, both from a time and money perspective. So I loved what I did, got married later in life, started a family later in life, and, found myself at that critical place of wanting more control over my time. And as a W-2 employee, you just don't always get that. And two things kind of happened back to back. One was the day a woman innocently asked me at the park as we're pushing our kids on the swing, "What do you do for fun?" I was like, I don't have an answer. And that kind of rocked me to my core. I was like, wait, what? And then shortly thereafter, like within a couple weeks, I had a day where I had to do a very big presentation to a to a board. And about 10 minutes before I was due to go live to do it, I get a call from this preschool saying, you need to come now. Like, you need to come get your child now. I had no family in town. Husband was on a trip. And so I'm having to call the president of the company to say, I'm not going to be there. And that didn't go well at all. And at that moment, I was like, something has got to change, right? So long story short, kind of the whole inability to juggle all the things led me to realize the way I was planning and managing my time wasn't working anymore because I had so many new roles and responsibilities in my life. So thankfully, I realized, Megan, isn't this kind of what you do for a living? Like, people hire you to come in, look at the chaos of their organizations and find a streamlined way to do this. So I essentially took myself on as a client and said, okay, let's throw all of it out and start over and say, how do we create a new way for me to figure out how I plan and manage my time so that I'm not always feeling like I'm in constant right now firefighting, handling the squeaky wheel kind of thing. It didn't happen overnight. It was years of work for me to work on and refine this. And, again, very long story short, ended up leaving corporate altogether. And now I am doing this full time. Well, I say full time jokingly, I don't work very much, but this is my one and only job outside of family and all of that. And I am on a mission to bring work-life harmony to women all over the world.
Yeah. And I will say, and that's a beautiful journey that you have gone on. And what I always have admired about you is not only do you honor your time, right? You implement and get stuff done and you're constantly moving forward. So it's not even like she'll say, I work till 1 o'clock or whatever to go get my daughter. And you're like, what? Wait, what? How does she work till 1 o'clock? Oh, it must take her forever to hit this milestone or to get through this course, or not only just to get through a course or a program, but it's implementing and taking action and getting results within that time frame. So you definitely have not only gone through your journey to get the secret sauce, like you've nailed the secret sauce.
Well, and I'm always learning, right? Testing,
Yes.
tweaking, and I'm never going to teach anything that I'm not myself doing. But I think that the timing of that, when people will say, oh, how do you get so much done? Like, oh, honestly, the secret is in what I'm not doing. It's all the things that are living on my to-don't list instead of keeping them on my to-do list. So from the outside looking in to the world, they think I'm getting so much stuff done. And I'm like, I'm actually not. I'm just getting the right stuff done.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm excited. Let's dive in. So what is the first thing that we are not supposed to do, or how do we start this?
Well, I'll tell you what, creating a to-don't list is something that's going to look different for every single person. But the process that you can go through to identify one, and I think now is the perfect time to talk about this because, as you said, the new year's coming. It's really like, even I have to temper myself a little because I get all excited about, okay, new year, like I'm going to conquer world hunger, right? Like we get so excited about all the things that we want to do, that we're excited to do, new opportunities, fresh start, all of that. And if we're not careful, we can completely overburden ourselves with the 20,000 goals that we're going to achieve instead of saying, you know what, no, if I just do this one thing, the ripple effect is going to be massive. So the first step that I go through, and I actually do this every single month. So I challenge myself every month to get one more thing added to my to-don't list, meaning something I've currently been doing that I am now no longer going to do. So the first step, if you've never thought about this, I will tell you, it will feel overwhelming, but you've got to rip the Band-Aid off. And it is to truly list out absolutely everything in your life that is taking away time. So even the home chores, right? The time on social media, we got to be honest about that as well. And not just work, but as a business owner, what are all the tasks that you are doing in your business? And I like to equate this to, let's say you were realizing you're in debt, right? Financially. Well, the first thing any financial advisor is going to have you do is to say, we need to understand where all your money's going, right?
Right.
How do you know what to change if you don't know how you're spending it? Well, think about time in the same way. We have to see, where are all those minutes going every single day? And if you've never done it, it will feel a little yucky, because you're just going to have to be honest with yourself about sometimes what you're doing. But I want to encourage you, when you do this isn't a beat yourself up. Just like you don't want to beat yourself up if you saw that, hey, I go to Starbucks and drop $7 a day every day. And that may be something you never put on your to-don't list, because
Right.
maybe that's important enough for you. All right.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I will very happily say I watch Netflix every night. I'm not getting rid of that. I don't feel guilty about it, because that fits a pocket of time that refuels me. So just know, I'm not going to sit here and beat you up if you say, like, I need to look at Instagram reels every day. My sisters and I send each other reels. It makes me happy.
Right.
So we need to get the list of where is all of your time going, and then step away from it for a good couple days. Don't do this all at one sitting, because it's too much. Then, on fresh eyes, after you've given yourself a couple days space from it, now you come back to that list and do a first pass through and have an honest conversation with yourself, looking for 2 opportunities here of things you don't need to do. Opportunity number 1 of, is there anything on this list that I'm doing that I basically have gotten shoulded into? I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it because I feel like I should, because either someone else has made me feel that way, picture perfect things on Instagram has made me feel that way, a loved one has made me feel that way, whatever. And when I went through this just last month, one of the things on my list, I've been serving in a volunteer capacity on a board, and it served me well for a while. But for the last 3 months, it's been more of a, I should.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, things can live on your list, and that weren't shoulded, that can subtly over time sneak in there, right? So we're looking first for those things of what's eating up my time that I really don't even want to do, don't need to do. I'm doing it for all the wrong reasons. And then secondly, what on this list are things I don't enjoy doing that I really could outsource?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are going to be some things on our list we don't enjoy doing that just need to get done. Like, I hate doing laundry, but you know what? I'm going to do the laundry. Like,
Right.
It's laundry, mow the lawn. I'll take the laundry, right? I'll let my husband go mow the lawn. Some days we switch it up. But that's all we're going to look for right out of the gate, are those 2 categories. Now, for the first one of the things that you're shoulded, now we need to actually get a plan in place to say, how do I remove myself from this?
Mm-hmm.
So like with the example of the board that I've been volunteering on, I had to send the hard email to say, I didn't want to just be like, see ya, at the end of this year, I'm afraid I will no longer have the time to serve in this capacity. So I'm giving them, 2 months for them to find a replacement, for me to work with them. Said I will pour all into that. And if needed, I will extend until January 31st.
Mm-hmm.
So I've even given a little wiggle room. But now I know that I have the wheels in motion to, now that is going to free up actually about 3 hours a month for me, which is a lot of time, right? When you look at that month over month, year after year. So first is get your plan in place to get your shoulds off your list. Then with the things that you don't want to do that can be outsourced, here's where most people get stuck. They look at those and instantly, what do we think? Well, I can't afford to outsource it,
Yes.
right? I don't have the money. I don't know anybody. I don't whatever. So like, oh, well, I'm just stuck here. Well, now you need to get buy-in with the other people in your life that the outsourcing may impact. So about maybe 10 months ago, I had on my to-don't list for a long time cleaning my house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hate it. I mean, who enjoys that, right? And every weekend, I'm like, I'm spending like 25% of my weekend cleaning, and I want to go have a fun weekend. Like, this is not serving me. And so, sat down with the family. Hey, I'm out. Like, we need to come up with a strategy here. And instantly it was, well, we can't afford a cleaning service. So I said, great. Well, then how are we all working together to do this?
Right.
So we got a plan. So outsourcing initially looked like me delegating. I owned some, and every other family member had their chores for the weekend as well. Well, after about 4 weeks of this, the family came back and said, I think we should look at a way for us to free up some funds so that we can outsource this, right?
Yes.
But then we were able to go through the process of, okay, what would it cost for us to do this? Is the money there? And if not, what changes are we willing to make in order to free up the funds to do this?
Like, what is everybody willing to sacrifice for that?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it really, basically it was like, we would usually go out to eat twice a week. And we're like, hey, we're just going to only go out to eat once a week. And now we can afford to do this. So I think sometimes we think it's going to be more work than it is to do it. And so we don't bother breaking it down and creating a plan to get it off of our list. So when you go for the first time to create the to don't list, what you're doing is creating the short list of things that you are committed to putting a plan in place to get that time freed up. And then you don't have to do it all at once. Get it in priority order and start chipping away. And this is why I say every month, my goal is to actually have something on that to don't list that is officially now I am no longer spending time on. And it doesn't happen every month, but wheels are in motion, either creating a plan, trying out things, all of that.
And even like mentally getting prepared, like for the shoulds. Like some people are attached, or maybe they're going to feel like they're going to be judged if they don't do this or whatever. So it's like kind of coming to terms like, okay, it's okay to put me first. It's okay that if this is not what I want to do, everybody's just going to have to deal with it. And I know for some people they're like, because I went through this for a minute where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm being so selfish that I wouldn't want to do XYZ, or even sometimes it was family stuff. But I was like, you know what? I need some time for me with everything else going on in my life. So some people might take them a couple of months for them to realize like, okay, I can be good and feel comfortable within myself to maybe not do this one thing.
I mean, and
I
if
love that you're saying that.
Yeah, a good sign that it is one of those shoulds is if when you look at that thing, does it build up almost that like resentment in you? Like, God, I gotta like that's how I got with the housework. I'm like, that's a sign that like you need to recognize this doesn't all need to be you. Right. And I think we're so quick, like, and this is why, so I was just writing about this morning, actually. There's so many similarities between our financial budget and our time budget, right? But we tend to have an easier time with the finance side because money is tangible, right? Like if you don't have it, you don't have it. Whereas time, we trick ourselves into thinking, I can just squeeze more out of what I have. Like, right. I can make that 1 hour stretch longer. I can squeeze I can sleep just 15 minutes less and keep adding stuff in. Well, once you get good at this to don't list, the next step in this is every single time you say yes to something new, you have to say, what am I getting rid of to make space for this new thing? Once you get your budget of time in a place that you like it. So, I mean, as you know, I work very little due to just the realities of my life right now. And it's very tempting for me to be like, I can get one more thing done. You know what, this week I'll just make time in the afternoon. And whenever I do that, I end up regretting it because then I'm not honoring the boundaries of my time that I know make me show up as my best self in all facets of my life. And so we actually just had to go through this exercise as a family where, we were debating to pull our daughter out of school and bring her home for a homeschool thing. And we had to go through the budgeting of this from both financial and a time. So before we could say yes to doing this, it meant looking at our schedule, looking at our time and saying, okay, for me, most of the burden is on me for this. If I now am spending X amount of time per day in a homeschool capacity where I am teaching and supporting and all of that, then how do I find the equal amount of tasks per day that I'm currently doing to make room for that? And we spent a good 5-6 weeks as a family churning on that and trying out different things and saying, well, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And so it ended up being a mixture of, I'm now actually working even a little bit less than I used to, but then some of my home responsibilities are now being delegated to other members of my family. So we kind of pulled from two different buckets of time and redistributed those elsewhere to create the space for this. But this is the process that so many of us, particularly high-performing business owners, we don't go through. Just because you can squeeze it in doesn't mean you should.
Well, and yes, and I love that you said that, because in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, how many times do I just continue to stack on the plate? Not even thinking that it's an option at times. Like, it doesn't even occur to me that it would be an option to take this off or whatever. It's just like, okay, I'm going to do this too. Right.
Yep.
So how relieving is that to feel like, oh my gosh, Okay.
Yeah. And the beauty of it for you, particularly in business, is when you get that laser focused on understanding how you're spending your time. This doesn't mean that like every minute of my day is mapped out. Like, okay, from 9 to 9:05. No, that's not what it means. You can still build in flexibility. But what it means is when I set a goal to, learn, implement, whatever, something with my business, I know if I'm only working with this bucket of time, that when other distractions come up, I'm like, oh, that sounds really good. Oh, I'm like, no, I'm not saying no forever. I'm saying not right now. And it goes on my backlogs of things to consider for the future, because right now, my energy and time is focused on getting this particular thing in my business done. And then when it's done, now I have that budget of time available to go look at all the other ideas that have come up and to make a conscious decision of, okay, what's next? What am I working on next? So I'm actually doing a lot less than most people, but instead of having 20% progress across 7 different projects, I am completing a project and then I'm starting another one and completing that one. So I'm getting to the finish line faster because my attention is not diverted so many places.
You just answered this question for me that I had, because I like to sign up for courses. I do the courses.
Me too.
Okay. So I'm not one of these well, I'm not going to lie. There are courses that I've signed up for that I have not even opened. Okay. But for the ones that I have now, let's say there's like 3. Okay. And then I've always have been like, what do I do? Do I finish one in its entirety, or do I pretend like I'm in college and do like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do this one, Tuesday, Thursday, do this one, right?
Yeah. And I love this question because I think the first thing you have to do is understand, are you in a course that has a live component that if you miss it, it's gone, right? Because we can all buy some courses that are truly DIY. Like you buy the content, it's there, you get it forever, you can go through it at your own pace. That's one category of courses. But then there are courses or programs. Actually, there's 3. So let's talk about all 3. So first, there's the DIY. You've got it forever. Those are the ones that we usually let sit on the back burner, right? Because we're like, I'll get to it later. Then there's the second, which is you've bought a program and you have it for X amount of time and then it's gone. Like I've had those before. It's like, hey, you buy this training, you get it for 30 days and you get to come on the call and then it's gone. Right. So those really are what I would put more in that urgent thing. Like there's a missed opportunity if you don't show up. And then there's the third type, which is there's the DIY component, but then there's, oftentimes calls or things like that do have live. So here's what I do, because I'm involved in all 3 myself. So first is anything that has that time urgency is going to get the priority on my calendar. Like if I've invested in it and I've said, I need this, I need to get through this, those are the things that get actual appointments, meaning set dates and time. Megan, Tuesday from 9 to 10, you're going to be doing this, because if you don't, it's gone. And again, those come in and out because those are those ones that you have them for a loan of time and they're out. Now, for the programs that are the mixture of there's DIY and there's live, this is where you need to understand for yourself and your life on a week by week basis, is this a week where that live component does need to take a priority or not? So a lot of us, might be in memberships that last a year or so, and there's stuff you're learning on your own, and then there's calls that you can be on. Well, I know for me, I'm usually on the calls because I've invested in it. But if I'm in the middle of a week where this is my deadline, I've been working on this goal, and for whatever marketing reasons I need it done, that might be a week where I say, this week, I'm willing to step away from that live component and join back in next. But it needs to be a week-to-week discussion. Now, on all the content that you get to consume on your own time, the DIYs, the portals, the whatever, the way I encourage people to do it is you've got to set one of two types of time frame goals for yourself. Option number one is, do you just want to set a deadline for when it's done and say, okay, I want to say I've got all of this done by March or whatever the date is? Well, if so, you then need to back into, what does that mean? How many hours of video content is there? And then basically it's a math equation. So maybe you realize, okay, that means I got to spend 2 hours a week in order for me to hit this by March. The other way to do it, and this is the way I typically work, is how many hours a week am I committed to learning? How many hours a week am I willing to prioritize for implementing? So in my life right now, I am committed to consuming 60 minutes of content from a DIY course every week. And then I have a 30-minute appointment on my calendar to implement what I learned. And that gets put in as appointments on my calendar every single week. And I like to work through one program at a time, because I feel like when you're in just that one headspace, like you're getting that momentum.
Yes.
So like I'm in a financial program right now, and like I want to stay in that frame of mind week after week and build on what I'm learning. But did I just get suckered into buying another program a couple weeks ago?
I'm sure.
I did. I did it very intentionally though, because it was it's a beta program. I'm going to get early access, but I'll have access to it forever. So I've bought it, and it's not even in my plan until January. Because the time that I'm spending in my current program, the financial one, that time will get freed up. And then I will now go spend that hour of learning and 30 minutes of implementing into this other program in January. So I don't feel anxious to dive in because I have a plan, but I really think you need to decide for yourself, what budget of my time am I willing to allocate to this? The appointment goes on the calendar, and then that's what you give it each and every week. And that's how I'm constantly chipping away at those things.
I love that. And I love that you already put it in for January, because it's not like, oh, I'm going to forget about it. And what was that thing I bought? Okay.
And when you get into that rhythm of your learning time and your implementing time every week, well, then as certain courses or things close out, then you're just filling them up now with what is the next thing that I want to, learn and grow on.
I love this. Okay. I know we digress from the to-don't list, right?
But it was a good conversation.
So. Yeah, it was good. I think it's good. Okay. So after we figure out like what we don't enjoy, and we decide to outsource or make it work on ourselves, is that the last step?
Well, no, because now the next step is, again, you're revisiting this every month. So once you've got the list of here's what I'm getting rid of, now that needs to be a plan. What is the first one I'm tackling? Like when the top of my list was the housework, it's like, okay, what action steps am I taking to get this off? Right. So first it was get the, outsourced to the family. That didn't work. Then eventually we got, it fully outsourced. Then it's what's next on the list. Great. Now let me start chipping away at that. And then every month, as I'm looking back at everything I'd spent my time on from the month before, as I'm looking through it, I'm asking myself, did anything pop up this month that now I'm realizing I need to add this to my to-don't list? And if the answer is yes, it goes on there. Some months it's like, no, it's still the same list. But then what are the ones at the top of the list that I am actively in motion to move off? So like the board one came up to the top. It won't officially be off my list, worst case scenario, till February 1, but I've taken the action steps to make that happen. So now I'll be able to move to the next one on my to-don't list to say, okay, what am I putting in place now to get this off my list? And on the business side, one of the recent ones we're doing is actually training someone on my team to take the first pass at my email, which is like huge, huge
Right.
for me. It's a letting go of control. Everything is changing my processes, right? But I'm like,
Hmm.
the amount of time I'm spending in things I don't have to be doing, that to let someone else do that filter and then no, here's what you need to do, Megan. That is probably, again, not a huge amount of time, but I think it's going to free up like 30 minutes a day.
For sure, for sure. And it's, you don't understand, or I did not understand the power of even 15 minutes. Like sometimes you're like, oh, 15 minutes, I'll just get up, get water, whatever. And you're like lollygagging. But 15 minutes, you could do a lot of stuff in 15 minutes. So 30, I can't even imagine. And that's the beauty when you were talking about like being scared of giving up control, or can I afford to hire someone? That whole thing. It's like, I always look at it too, is your energy. Because when I look at my calendar and I'm like some mornings you're like, oh my God, your energy just drops and it's not even for me 7 o'clock in the morning yet. Right. And I'm like, how am I supposed to take on the day with this type of energy? So then I got to spend time boosting my energy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, and then of course, when you show up with more energy, you're more magnetic, and then you start making more money because people are, attracted to that type of vibe that you're putting out. So it all kind of rolls together. And I
Yeah.
feel that maybe at the beginning it is a little bit of a struggle all the way around. However, I think it all comes to full circle when, like you said, you're committed because you made the decision that this is how you are going to live your life, and you're willing and committed to put through whatever effort that it takes to be in alignment with what you want your life to look like. Because the bottom line is like, I know it sounds so cliche. It's like we do only have one life, and as we get older, I think like for me, you start to realize like all these little moments that you're missing because you're doing all these things that you don't want to do, or that it takes so much time, or, oh, you think at first like, oh, my kids don't really need me, 24/7, which no, they don't. But even little
But
bits
they're
of
still
moments you're missing.
emotionally pulling
Yes.
from you 24/7.
They
Yeah.
are. And
Yeah.
and you know what? This happened, total side note, is I remember one of his best friends would give him a hard time when they were in high school about my son spending time with us as a family. He would say, "Oh, you're always with your family, or you're always doing this," and versus spending time with them. So now that they're 23, um he had a conversation with my son the other day. So my son called me because I remember kind of bothered my son because he felt the pressure, like being pulled in. He wanted
Yeah.
to be with his friends, and I get where he was coming from, but he always chose to be with us, not any pressure on our part. He just enjoyed being part of the family, right? So his friend tells him the other day, he says, "You know what? I really want to say that I'm sorry for giving you such a hard time, because it was really something that I wanted. I wanted to have that relationship with my parents, with my family, and spend that time. And I didn't have that. And I was really jealous now that I'm looking back and reflecting." And I'm like, that must have taken a lot for him. That was really big of him to do. And like, he could have just let it go. Like my son's very like non-confrontational, non-argumentative, and he probably would have never brought it up. But I'm like, that's so nice for them to realize. So your kids do realize what you're doing or not doing, and how much time and what that shapes them into as adults, and how they choose to parent, right? So as much as we're thinking, oh, taking an hour or two from away here, it will add up and make a huge difference in their lives, in my
Yeah.
personal
And
opinion. I
I
know
can
not
love
everybody
that.
has that flexibility. However, whatever time that you do have, do need to make the most of it.
Yeah, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality of
Oh,
it,
for
right?
sure.
Are
For
you
sure.
there? Or, because I mean, back in my corporate days, I didn't have the time I have with my daughter now, right? But the time I had made it count. Like it was, we
Exactly.
were in it. And
But
I will
even if you're
say,
home and stuff or spending, it's like, are you on your phone checking social or checking Voxer, or are you in the laundry room, or are you sitting there playing a game? Like, I love your stories because you're like, family movie night, this is family game night, whatever. You're doing things where it is like you are with her and paying
mm,
attention to her. And that's huge.
which has now shifted into, I don't know, all the rage of this
Teacher.
online game. Well, now I'm teacher part. Yeah. Although trying to work on we're not mother and daughter when we're doing lessons. This is student teacher, but but yeah, instead of games of Candyland, now she's teaching me how to play some of her online games. So we sit side by side and,
that's fun.
It's interesting. I will say for, thinking about more things to take off your list as a business owner, there's some people that might be listening. They're like, you know what? I'm pretty optimized. And cause I pride myself on feeling like I'm pretty optimized with how I'm spending my time and not doing things I shouldn't be doing. But I'm telling you, there's always stuff that we are in the habit of doing. And so another tip that you can think about as you start to really get good at making sure you're spending your time efficiently is at the start of every day, like as you were talking about, I'll look at okay, here's what's we use ClickUp, here's what's in ClickUp for today. Here's my calendar. Is I'll kind of do a quick emotional check of am I doing the, right? Oh God, I hate this stuff. Or is it things that energize me? Now, again, there's always going to be some parts of business that we just don't like, but any of those, your next question is, am I really the only person that can do this? Sometimes the answer will be yes. And then we just got to get it into alignment and get through it. But even the smallest things. So one of the tiniest shifts that we've made on our team recently, I have a podcast just as you do. I record my podcast and then the rest just magically happens for me. Right. But I realized the podcast episode would be over. I would go into the platform and download the files and then send them over to our editor to, do all the magic there. And thankfully, my ops manager said, how are those files getting there? I'm like, oh, as soon as I'm done. She's like, nope, not anymore. And I mean, we're talking 4 minutes, right? But the energy suck of me doing all of those things that anyone can get trained to do.
Right.
It's so freeing now. I'm literally done. And then it all from there, it truly all just magically happens. So even as you start to refine this, it's a constant game of what else can I get off of my to-do list over to my to-don't list? Because every one of those little 3 and 4 minute wins, they free up time, but they also free up that energy as well.
I love this. Thank you so much, Megan, for coming on today. This was so good. So I hope everybody's looking for all their to-don'ts to do.
Yeah.
Or to-don'ts to don't, not to do.
Yeah, your to-don'ts to do.
Where can everybody find you?
So I am easy to find. I'm Megan Sumrell everywhere. And then you can also, I've got a bunch of great free stuff for you over at the worklifeharmony.com. And in my app as well. So if you're looking for, I've got a whole bunch of training right at your fingertips. It's like having a time management coach in your pocket. But you can go search either Google Play or the App Store for the Pink Bee, all one word. Download that baby and you can actually watch me plan and you can plan along with me there in the app every week.
Oh my gosh. I'm definitely dropping where we can find those in the show notes. Thank you so much, Megan, for being here with us today.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers to creating your to-don't list. And until next time, let's grow your business together.